What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to the Neighborhood Podcast. One of the hosts of the podcast. My name is Kyle Dabro. So, in this segment, we're going to go over the ongoing series between the Colorado Avalanche and the Tampa Bay Lightning in the Stanley Cup. Just to give you guys a summary up to this point, uh, Colorado Avalanche are up 3-1 in this series. Looking back at game four that took place back in Tampa, Tampa got off to a very good start in game four. Yeah, Colorado was able to keep and go toe to toe with the Lightning throughout the entirety of the game. Game goes into overtime at 2-2 apiece. And about halfway through the overtime period, Colorado was able to put in the game winning goal, giving them the win 3-2 and giving them a pretty commanding 3-1 series lead at this point in time. And as we transition to game five, which is going to take place in Denver, I'm of the mindset that this is the Colorado Avalanche's series. The way that I've seen it so far from beginning to end, if you take game three out just for that one specific instance, Colorado has been the better team. They are faster, they are quicker, and they are just getting great scoring opportunities left and right. Because when I look at what the Avalanche did in the Western Conference Finals against the Oilers, they were able to effectively sweep them. Four straight games, putting up a ridiculous amount of goals in the process. But winning those four games in a row gave them a lot of time off and a lot of time to recover from any sort of lingering issues or lingering injury issues that some of the players may have been dealing with in some of the previous series. They had 8 days off between the last Western Conference final game against the Oilers compared to when they played the Lightning in the first game of the Stanley Cup. And I think you're starting to see that unfold, and really game four specifically, that was the one where it really stood out to me because in the overtime period, the Avalanche, despite the fact that they had already played 60 minutes of regulation time, they were the faster team in overtime, and the Lightning just looked slow and they looked exhausted. And that was despite the fact that Tampa was playing at home and Colorado was on the road. It was a night and day difference, and it really kind of showed itself in that overtime period. When I look at the Avalanche going into game five, I think they're going to score probably somewhere around 4 goals. Just because Colorado, when they've played at home in just this Stanley Cup round, they've been able to score very effectively in those two home games. They scored four in the first game, and then they scored seven. And they scored a touchdown in the second game. So their two home games, they've scored 11 goals against the Lightning. And the Lightning are showing themselves to be a better team defensively than what the Oilers presented the Avalanche in the Western Conference Finals. But it doesn't really matter just because the Avalanche are just a better team as far as I'm concerned. When I look at guys like Nathan MacKinnon, even though that Nathan MacKinnon hasn't been like huge on the scoring sheet for the Avalanche, just his overall speed and his overall pace, I think, has given the Lightning a lot of fits to work with. And not only that, just from top to bottom, it doesn't really matter which line you're looking at with the Avalanche. Just I think that the overall speed that the Avalanche have presented the Lightning has given Tampa just fits to work with. And I think on top of that, I just don't think that the Lightning have their skates underneath them or really their legs underneath them because let's face it, when they were playing the Rangers, it was a 6 game series. And they were only able to get a couple days off after that. And I think you're starting to see that rear its ugly head because they just didn't have a lot of recovery time after they finished the series with the Rangers. Colorado did have that advantage because they swept the Oilers. And when I look at Tampa specifically, I just don't think that Tampa's defense is going to be able to hold up against Colorado. I think that Colorado is just going to be on fire the entire game in game five. And I do think that when it's all said and done, I think that Colorado are going to be hoisting the Stanley Cup after game five, just because I don't see the Lightning going to Denver, playing at a mile high, and being able to outscore Colorado. If they were, it would be kind of a shock to me because the first two games that the Lightning played in Denver, game one was a competitive one. They fought back in that game, but game two was just an absolute annihilation. And I don't think it's going to be what it was like in game two. I don't see the Lightning giving up 7 to 8 goals, but I do think the Lightning are going to give up somewhere around 3 to 4 goals. I'm going to say four just to be specific. And I do think that the Lightning are going to make it somewhat of a game, but I just think that Colorado's going to be too much for them to handle. And do see Colorado winning the Stanley Cup in a 4-2 game five, and that would effectively end the series. And it would cap off a phenomenal run for the Avalanche. And also, it would kind of cap off a significant run for the Lightning. They have won the last two Stanley Cups, and for the Avalanche to be able to knock off the back-to-back defending Stanley Cup champions, that is definitely to be respected. But overall, I got the Avalanche winning this one. That's all that I got from here.